Brilliant. I was so excited when I saw that you could put this on a presentation. Never done it before. I'm not even sure I'd know how to do it again, but I was very excited. So first of all, thank you to Natalie for asking me to be involved in the workshop today. I work for Make-A-Wish UK. I'm a Stokey born and bred, and I've been quite involved with the things that BAST have been doing, especially in the last 12 months. So very happy to be able to come and hopefully give some sort of useful advice today. So just so that you know that I may know what I'm talking about. Just a bit of background on me. So I got into working in the charity sector and in fundraising because back in 1999 I was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia, and this is a very fetching picture of me in my Port Vale top looking like Casper the Friendly Ghost. I was looked after at both Birmingham Children's Hospital and Royal Stoke, or what was North Staffs then. And then I had chemotherapy for about a year, and then I was very lucky to be in remission. And at the end of that, I was referred to Make-A-Wish for a wish, and they granted my request to go and have a holiday with my family. So in 2005, I decided, right, this is a good time now to start giving back. And I registered to be a volunteer at both Make-A-Wish UK and at Cancer Research UK. And I took my little girl with me at every available opportunity, hoping to drum into her just how important it is to get out there and volunteer and raise funds for those local causes. Like many of you, I'm sure, I got the fundraising bug. And in 2013, I was lucky enough to secure my first job within the charity sector when I became a community fundraiser at the Donna Louise Children's Hospice down the road in Trentham. I think my proudest moment there was creating the Emergency Services Day, along with some of our local police community support officers, which was a fantastic event attended by over 11,000 people, and it went for about 4 years, I think. And we were about to revive it this year, weren't we, Natalie? And then coronavirus. So in 2016, I became the Challenge Events Manager at Donna Louise, and I did a skydive myself just to show everyone that if I can do it, anyone can. Not sure if I'd recommend it. It was an experience. And then in 2018, a regional fundraising manager role became available at Make-A-Wish. And although I loved working for the Donna Louise, I had a real connection with Make-A-Wish and I just had to go for it. And amazingly, they offered me the job. And I've had the best 2 years working with some of the most fantastic people across central England on many different fundraising opportunities. So in 2019, I was asked to join the Institute of Fundraising West Midlands Committee, and I host the Staffordshire and Shropshire meetups every month. And earlier this year, after being furloughed, I set up a Facebook group for furloughed fundraisers, and I'm now working with over 1,800 fundraisers, providing support and training ready for them to go back into the fundraising world. So during all of those things that I've been doing, I've been involved in all types of fundraising, whether it be community, corporate, events, trusts and grants, online and so on. So I've put some top tips together that I feel can be applied across the board. So some of these are relevant to bid writing, some might be relevant to bid writing and just general relationship management, everything really helpful in day-to-day fundraising. So my first tip is that it's a no for now, not forever. None of us like rejection, do we? But if you have been rejected on a fundraising bid or been knocked back on a Charity of the Year partnership, or just simply had a no when popping into Tesco and asking for a voucher to help towards an event, just remember that that's just no at this time where they're at this moment. They might have different missions that they're working on. It's nothing necessarily that you've done wrong. Just keep a record of it, make a date, and set a reminder for the following year when their applications might open again. but most importantly, keep building that relationship. That's the sort of effort that will turn the no into a yes the next time you ask. Secondly, my advice would be to think like a donor. So I think a lot of us can get a bit absorbed in our charities and what we as a charity think that people want. And sometimes we have to take a step back and think about actually what do our supporters want from us. Research shows that when writing bids, you have 10 minutes to make an impact. And that's the amount of time that someone will spend looking at your application. If you submit your application, and Tom mentioned this earlier, submitting it as early as possible, you know, the longer you leave it, the more bids they're going to have to look at, and essentially the less time they're going to have for each bid. So the earlier you can get that application in, the more time that supporter or donor has got to actually look at it. Don't assume that the funder knows anything about your organisation. We know our charities inside and out, and a lot of the time I think we miss out some of the minor details, and we just head straight for the big statements when we're talking about our cause. But you might be putting an application into somebody that doesn't know anything about your organisation, regardless of how big you believe your cause may be in a particular area. The application shouldn't be about you and how you can help. So see it from the point of view of how can the funder best achieve their aims by supporting yours. So when it comes to working with supporters, think about the similarities that you share. Where could you complement each other's work? What service do you provide that you can offer to them or their workforce? And how can you work together as opposed to just being on the receiving end of their support? And most importantly, funders and supporters don't want to be bored any more than we do. Be passionate. Remember that bid managers and supporters are human. Tell stories, be gripping, take risks. Some of the key tips I picked up at the Institute of Fundraising Trust and Grants Conference earlier this year were that only talk about the things that relate to the funder's aims. If you're including photos, sometimes you can do that. Choose the ones that are most descriptive and have a conversation with the funder before doing the application and find out what they want instead of guessing or just thinking, right, this must be what they want. Actually, just pick up the phone and speak to them. If it's a free text application, don't do anything more than 2 pages long. And if they're going to print it out, they're going to save money, so they will print it in black and white. So choose a font and pictures that look good in black and white format. Frame the funds that you're writing to as part of the solution. And distance your charity so that you're not writing it as though you're providing the solution, the funder is. Always include the sum you're asking for. Now, this is where me and Tom have just differed in opinions. So at the conference, they were saying always ask for the maximum. They may offer less, more, but always look for the potential. But it might not have been just Tom, actually. I think there were a couple of things said about if you apply for one amount and you don't get it, you then have to reapply for another. So that's something that you may want to, again, pick the phone up and ask that question. It's useful, apparently, to include a 200-word summary at the start of the application to say, this is who we are, what we do, this is how much we need, and this is the project that we need to fund, in a summary, so that it's not lost through the application. And the quote I picked up on the most when I was at that conference was a funder said that the best application they've ever read was one that was written as though it was a conversation between the funder, a charity, and a beneficiary. And I thought that was really interesting because I would never have thought of putting a application in that way. So that's a way that we can be quite imaginative and actually stand out amongst the many, many other applications that will be put in. So my next tip would be to do your research, look at annual accounts, look at patterns and the types of charities that they've supported in the past and the sort of projects that they've funded in the past. And that way you can usually get a feel for whether or not this is something that you should spend your time on applying for. Research what type of fundraising events or campaigns they like to get involved in. Google them. It feels a bit stalkery, but you can find out so much about, you know, these different places by just putting their name into Google and putting charity newspaper, and you'll get loads of articles about what they've done previously that you might not be able to find out in other places. Always check to see if your organisation has approached them in the past. So if you have worked together previously, find out what you achieved by working together. And if you were unsuccessful, was there any feedback as to why? My next and most favourite tip is to provide moments and delighters. And for anyone who's read The Power of Moments by Dan and Chip Heath, you'll know what I'm talking about now. And if you haven't read it, I would highly recommend it as a book that any fundraiser should read. So this is about providing those moments during your stewardship that really make you stand out from everybody else. So getting in touch for no other reason than to just say thank you. No ask, no motivation, just thank you. We have days at Make-A-Wish that instead of us having like an annual thankathon, we have it that every day should be a thankathon. So we will just spend so much time every day picking up the phone to say thank you, and people are always so shocked when you end the call without asking them for something, but they are the sort of things that make people remember you. Sending a card made personally by beneficiaries. When I worked at the Donna Louise, that was something we used to do quite a lot of. So I used to volunteer every Saturday at the sibling club, and I would sit and I'd colour in pages with the siblings. I'd make cards with them, and then we would use them to send to people that we were either building relationships with or had perhaps made a donation, and they always went down very well. If you're arranging to call somebody, perhaps get a member of delivery staff involved in that call, so it's not just a fundraiser that people are speaking to all the time. Sometimes they want to hear about the people on the ground that are actually doing the work that they are funding. This is the Kano model that briefly describes what I mean by delighters and you know, moments. So if you can see this, I'm not sure how clear it is. You've got the things that are must-haves, and they don't increase supporter satisfaction. But if they're not done, it really can decrease the supporter satisfaction. And then you've got the delighters that are things that the supporters weren't wanting or expecting, but it actually really increases their satisfaction with the organisation if you do them. So that's just a bit of an idea of where that comes from. But again, The Power of Moments by Chip and Dan Heath, highly recommend. So then my last bit of advice is to just be yourself. So have real, honest conversations with people. You can't make a connection if you're not being yourself. Ask questions if you're unsure of what's expected. Pick up the phone, introduce yourself, and remember that you're chatting to a human. And you are way more articulate than any letter or bid you will ever write. You know your charity inside and out, and only you can relay that passion by being yourself. So for me, that's the most important bit of advice I was ever given, and the most important bit of advice that I could pass on to you as well. So hopefully that was helpful. If you do have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. I'm happy to be contacted. Natalie's got my details. And yeah, I think that's stuff that can be applied across the board, regardless of the size of your charity, whether it's a local organisation or a national one. Those are things that we can all take into building those relationships.
Thanks for that. Has anyone got any fundraising related questions for Nikki? We've got one. What was the book called? Could you just put a reminder so I can type it in?
I'll type it in there.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
There you go.
Anyone else got anything? you. Really enjoyed your presentation. Cool.
There you go. It's a really good one. You can get it on Audible. If you prefer to listen, you can get them on Audible. And just potter around the kitchen and get all motivated by Chip and Dan.
Do you want to just say when the next Institute of Fundraising local meeting is as well? Because that might be useful for some.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's actually this Monday coming up. Is that the 4th? I think.
I've seen a reminder for it, but I'll have to have a look.
Yeah, so it should be on the 4th, I think, and that's just obviously at the minute it's all virtual, and any fundraisers across Staffordshire or Shropshire are more than welcome. The 3rd, I'm being told, thank you, Julie. Are more than welcome to join in that conversation, and it's lots of local people talking about local challenges within the fundraising sector. And what we can do as a group to work on those challenges and help each other really. Lots of learning. Last month, a lady came in and said, I've got an idea of something I'd really like to do, but we've never done a virtual event. And by the end of it, we'd practically organised a whole event. So yeah, definitely come along if you've got the time to do it. Have a look on the IOF Eventbrite page